Sadgurum Vande Shri Krishnan Tadanantaram Guru Papatmanam Tratam Shri Krishnas Tvamalatmanam Kararvindena Padarvindam Mukharvinde Viniveshayantam Bhattasya patrasya puteshayanam Balam mukundam manasa smarami Padashritanam cha samastachauram Shri Radhikaya Hridayasya chauram Nilambujasyyamal Kanti chauram Chauragraganyam Purusham Namami Aho chitram Vande tat prema bandhanam Yad baddham muktidam muktam Brahma krida bhrigi kritam Yo brahmanam vidadhati purvam Yo vai vedanscha prahinoti tasmai Tagvam ha devamatma buddhi prakasham Mumukchurvai sharanamaham prapadye. Dear devotees, we'll have a few minutes of chanting, and after that we'll continue with the 4th and 5th chapters of the Gita. Radhe Radhe Govinda Govinda Radhe 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 Govinda Govinda
Govind Radhe.
Radhe Radhe Govind 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 Govind Radhe. Radhe Radhe Govind Govind Radhe.
Radhe Radhe Govind Govind Radhe. Radhe Radhe Govind Govind Radhe.
Radhe Radhe Govind Govind Radhe. Radhe Radhe Govind Govind Radhe.
Radhe Radhe Govind Govind Radhe. Radhe Radhe Govind Govind Radhe.
Radhe Radhe Govind Govind Radhe.
Radhe Radhe Govind Govind Radhe.
Radhe Radhe Govind Govind Radhe.
Radhe Radhe Govind Govind Radhe.
Radhe Radhe Govind Govind Radhe.
Radhe Radhe Govind Govind Radhe.
Radhe Radhe Govind Govind Radhe.
Radhe Radhe Govind Govind Radhe.
Radhe Radhe Govind Govind Radhe.
Radhe Radhe Govind Govind Radhe.
Radhe Radhe Govind Govind Radhe. Radhe Radhe Govind Govind Radhe.
Radhe Radhe Govind Govind Radhe. Radhe Radhe Govind Govind Radhe.
Radhe Radhe Govind Govind Radhe. Radhe Radhe Govind Govind Radhe.
Radhe Radhe Govind Govind Radhe. Radhe Radhe Govind Govind Radhe.
Radhe Radhe Govind Govind Radhe.
Radhe Radhe Govind Govind Radhe.
Radhe Radhe Govind Govind Radhe.
Radhe Radhe Govind Govind Radhe.
Radhe Radhe Govind Govind Radhe.
Radhe Radhe Govind Govind Radhe.
Radhe Radhe Govind Govind Radhe.
Radhe Radhe Govind Govind Radhe.
Radhe Radhe Govind Govind Radhe. Radhe Radhe Govind
Radhe Govinda Govinda Radhe 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 Govinda Govinda Radhe
Radhe Radhe Govinda Govinda Radhe 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 Govinda Govinda Radhe
Radhe Radhe Govinda Govinda Radhe 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 Govinda Govinda Radhe
बोलो राधा कृष्ण भगवान की
Jai.
Yesterday I left you with a question after having told the story of Shri Krishna eating the soil and then Maya threatening him that, did you eat the soil? And out of fear his mouth opened and then she saw the whole universe within him, showing to all of us that even when Shri Krishna is taking avatar on this earth, he is still God. Even when he's playing the Leela of being a little baby, he's still God. He's still the supreme Lord of the whole entire universe. The question was that if he's God, then was he pretending to be afraid of his mother? Is he just pretending to be a little baby? Mostly, no, he's not pretending. He is God, so he does have to decide, okay, I'm going to become a little baby. In that way, it's a pre-planned thing. So you can say, is he acting? Well, he's acting as a little baby, yes, but once he becomes a little baby, and he's given himself to his mother, Mother Yashoda was a God-realized saint who received the boon of having God as her son. Once Shri Krishna gives himself like that, then he forgets about being God. Then it's no longer an act. Otherwise, if Mother Yashoda knew, oh, he's God and he's just pretending to be afraid of me when I scold him, he's just pretending to cry to get into my lap because he thinks I'll like it, he's just pretending to want me to feed him, he's pretending to be sleepy so I can put him to bed, then there would be no sweetness in it for her. The reason that she gets bliss from that is because he's not pretending and she doesn't think he's pretending. But how does God become like that? Supreme God, who's upholding the existence of the whole universe, is trembling before little Mother Yashoda, who's holding a thin little stick that would wave if it's so thin you move it in the air and it bends like that. That thin of a stick, and Krishna is cowering before her and crying so that even, his tears are running down his face. How could God really be that afraid? We get a little hint of this secret in the end of the 4th chapter. Or it's not actually the end, it's the 9th verse of the 4th chapter. I'm saving it till the end. Ye yatha mam prapadyante tas tathaiva bhajamyaham. He says that however a soul surrenders to him, he does bhakti to that soul the same way in return. He does bhajan. What does this mean practically? Well, we can surrender to him in one of 5 ways. With shant bhav, dasya bhav, sakhya bhav, vatsalya bhav, or madhurya bhav. These are 5 ways of relating yourself to God. Who do you get attached to? Someone you love, right? But why do you love the person? Because you feel you're related to them. In some way you feel that you belong to them and they are yours. And this feeling of belonging can be divided into 5 different categories. From the most distant to the closest. The most distant would be considering yourself to be someone's subject, and they're your king or queen. They're your ruler, and you're a subject in their kingdom. This is called Shant Bhav. Closer than this is if you consider yourself to be someone's servant, and they're your master. Also in this category would be like you're the child, and they're the mother, they're your parent, they're your mother or father. This is called Dasya Bhav. Closer than this is Sakhya Bhav, when you consider yourself to be someone's best friend, and they're your friend. Even closer than this is Vatsalya Bhav, when you consider yourself to be the parent, and they are your child. And the closest of all is Madhurya Bhav, when you consider someone to be your beloved, and you are their beloved. We have these types of relationships in the world, each one being closer and in fact including the sweetness of the previous one. The servant could also be a subject in the king's kingdom, right? But he or she is also serving the king or queen. So they're not only a subject, they're also a servant. So the servant is much closer than a common subject. A common subject doesn't get to enter the inner quarters of the king or queen, but the servant who cleans the king or queen's bedroom gets to walk right on in. So the servant is much closer. But they're also a subject, so it includes the sweetness of being the subject of a benevolent king or queen. The friend of the king is still a subject of the king, right? Sure. And may also serve the king or queen. Why not? A friend can act as a servant. A friend can be a subject. But can the servant be a friend? No. The servant cannot act as a friend to the king. Imagine if, the servant maybe cooks and cleans and maybe brings the king chai. Imagine after having made chai, the servant comes in and sits down on the couch next to the king. Hey, buddy, puts his arm around him, pours himself a cup of chai as well, says, hey, what happened today? Tell me about your day. That servant would be fired immediately. The servant can't behave the way a friend behaves, but the friend can do that. Beyond this, think of the king's mother. The king's mother can also act as a friend, talk on a one-to-one basis with her son or daughter. The mother or father may also act as a servant, meaning they can serve, they can do something for the king or queen. They are also a subject in the king's kingdom, but they have so much more freedom. There's no restriction for the mother in private. The mother can still scold the king, in fact. Even the friend cannot get away with that. The friend can joke with the king, the friend can tell stories with the king, but the friend cannot scold. The mother can scold. The mother can say, that was totally wrong. If you do that again, I'm going to punish you. And the king has to listen. It's his own mother. What's he going to do? And the king's wife has all of those rights. The queen and king together, what they do in private, they can talk to each other any way they want, even in ways the mother and the king would not speak to each other. So you see, each one is included and taken to another level in each of these 5 relationships. Madhurya Bhav, the closest of all, includes the freedoms of Vatsalya Bhav, the parent-to-child relationship, and the freedoms of the friend-to-friend relationship, and the freedoms of the servant-to master relationship, as well as the feelings of subject. All of that included in one. When we love God, we will love God in one of these 5 ways as well. These are the 5 major categories of how you would feel related to anyone, be it a person in the world or to God. So we say, oh yes, I want to love God. But how do you love? You have to love Him in one of these 5 ways. This is why Shri Krishna says, however you surrender to me, whether you surrender to me with Shant Bhav, feeling yourself to be a subject in my kingdom, or Dasya Bhav, or Sakhya Bhav, or Vatsalya Bhav, or Madhurya Bhav, however you surrender to me, in other words, however you love me, I will love you the same way in return. That's His law, He says in the Gita. So Mother Yashoda is a saint, a soul who surrendered to God with Vatsalya Bhav, completely purified her heart. God came to her, Shri Krishna came to her and said, now you are my mother. You've surrendered to me with Vatsalya Bhav. So when He came as Shri Krishna, Mother Yashoda came as His mother. Then what happens is, there's a special power. You know, when you love someone in this world, the love is merely a thought in your mind. It's a feeling in your mind. It doesn't exist as any kind of external power. But in the divine world, prema shakti, prem, is an actual power of God. So you can have dasya prem, sakhya prem, vatsalya prem, madhurya prem, all these different styles or tastes of this divine bliss. And God also enjoys all those different styles of divine bliss. When He interacts with His God-realized saints, His parikar, the divine associates in His divine abode, they enjoy, let's say there's a Sakhya Bhav saint in Golok Dham with Shri Krishna. That saint enjoys Sakhya Ras from Shri Krishna. When he interacts with Him, as he gets to all day, every day in the divine world, he's enjoying Sakhya Ras. It's a particular type of divine bliss. Beyond that is Vatsalya Ras. Beyond that is Madhurya Ras. But as he's enjoying it, so is Shri Krishna. Shri Krishna is enjoying his own ras through the interaction with that saint. And what happens to both of them under the effect of this ras, they both forget their place. The place being, in reality, Krishna is the king and we are His subjects. That's the reality. We are not His friend. We are not His mother. We are not His beloved. No, the reality is He's God. We're insignificant souls. But that reality has no ras. All of your faces went like this. When I said that, you all went. There's no ras in that. There's no ras in reality, right? The ras is there when Shri Krishna forgets His position as God and we forget our position as souls. And this happens through His power. His prema shakti makes Him forget, and the souls who love Him in that way also forget. Back to the case of Mother Yashoda. Mother Yashoda is enjoying this Vatsalya Ras, that Shri Krishna, you know, when you have a loving child, you also get lost in the love of that child. Now imagine if your own child was Shri Krishna, the very form of divine bliss, you would be completely drowned. So Mother Yashoda was totally drowned in that Vatsalya Ras. So she forgets totally that Krishna is God. Just like the queen, not the queen, but what I mean is the mother of the king. Does the mother of the king actually think of her son as the king? No. When she sees him in public, okay, she realizes, she remembers, yes, he's the king. When they're in private, no, he's my son. That's it. He's my son. He's the king to the rest of the world, but he's my son. If she thinks of him as the king, then there's a restriction. Then there's that distance, that he's the king, I'm just a subject in his kingdom. So Mother Yashoda totally forgets that Shri Krishna is God. Not forget like in a way of ignorance, but just in the way that her mind is overwhelmed in loving feelings for Krishna. So all she's conscious of is that he's my son, and the rest just recedes into the background. And same thing with Shri Krishna. Although he knows he's God, but that awareness of his being God recedes totally into the background and is completely washed over or drowned in the love of his mother, Yashoda. So that's why he's not actually pretending. When Yashoda Maiya is threatening him with that Santi, he's not pretending, because he doesn't even remember he's God. He's trembling in front of her. No, mother, I didn't eat the dirt. The tears are real. When he's playing with his friends, he's not putting on some act that I want to, do some fun-loving leela. No, he's really playing with his friends the way you would play with your friends. This is how God performs these sweet leelas and why they're so attractive to us. Because we could also have that relationship with Shri Krishna according to our devotion. Whatever way of loving him we adopt, he gives us that same love in return, and we receive that status or that position in the divine world when we attain him. So this was one important point from the 4th chapter that was left out yesterday. Another one, this is the last Shlok I'm going to share with you from the 4th chapter. This is near the end, the 34th Shlok. Tadvidhi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya upadekchanti te jnanam jnaninas tattvadarshinaha. This is the only Shlok in the whole Gita which actually refers to the guru-disciple relationship. Although saints, the status of a saint is described at many places in the Gita. This is the one place where Shri Krishna makes it clear that no one can reach God without the help of a God-realized saint. He says, Jnaninaha tattva darshinaha, the qualification of a guru. He must be jnani, meaning knowing all the scriptures in totality, and tattva darshinaha. He must have seen God. Darshina, seen. Sometimes we just think, oh yeah, God realized, attaining God. But what does that mean practically? It means you have to perceive God with your own senses. See God, smell God, taste God, touch God, hear God. Then you've attained God. So we tend to rely more heavily on our eyesight. That's why we say darshina. See God, meet him face to face. Such a saint is of use to us souls in our quest to find God. Tad vidhi pranipatena. If you want to know God, then you have to take the help of a saint. The same way you would take the help of a doctor. If you have a problem, some kind of physical problem, you surrender to the doctor. Meaning, doctor, I don't know. You please tell me. You surrender your intellect to the doctor. And whatever you say, I'll do it. Then you get better. In the same way, we have to surrender to a saint. Just like you surrender to your mechanic when you take your car in for servicing. How many people can fix their own car nowadays, now that everything's computerized? You're all sharanagat to your mechanics. You don't fear it, you don't worry about it, it's just a fact of life. Okay, car needs fixing, I'll take it into the mechanic. Whatever he says, I get it done, then the car works better. It's the same way in the spiritual field. If we want to progress spiritually, we need the help of an expert, like the expert mechanic, the expert doctor. It's a field that we are not expert in, so we need expert guidance. This is where the God-realized saint is able to help us. The saint can clear our doubts, explain what is the actual path that we have to practically follow. And by associating with the saint, the true bliss of bhakti is revealed in our heart. Even to know the Gita, you need the help of a God-realized saint. I haven't explained to you, and nor will I ever, any verse which I tried to interpret on my own. Everything I've explained to you is because I heard it explained by Jagadguru Shri Kripaluji Maharaj, because I am not qualified to interpret the Gita on my own. Only a God-realized saint is. When people ask me, can you recommend a good translation of the Gita? I say, no, I can't. Because no one is meant to study the Gita or any other scripture on their own. No scripture is produced for that reason, that anyone should go and study it on their own. The scriptures are meant to be learned with the help of a God-realized saint. So I tell people, you want to read Gita, you may be inspired or impressed. The first time I read Gita, I was impressed. I didn't understand anything, but I was impressed. You want to understand the philosophy of the Gita, you have to learn it from a God-realized saint. So I tell people, read Prem Ras Siddhant. This is the main book of Jagadguru Shri Kripaluji Maharaj. In there he's quoted almost 200 shlokas of the Gita out of 700. You can say the essence of the Gita is there. Plus he's quoted from all the other main scriptures. It's presented in a very systematic way, covering all the main topics of spirituality and Hinduism. So the philosophy of the Gita is explained there in this book, Prem Ras Siddhant by Shri Kripaluji Maharaj, but not a chapter by chapter and verse by verse explanation, because that is not going to help you understand the philosophy of the Gita. You need to get a more general understanding of the total philosophy, and then you can understand how the Gita fits into that. The Gita does not stand alone. The Gita is part of a large, interconnected, totally coordinated system of knowledge of Sanatan Dharma, held up by the foundation of Ved and Upanishads and crowned by the knowledge of the Bhagavatam and the teachings of the Rasik saints, the Rasik Varni. So Gita can't be understood in a vacuum, which is why we need the help of saints, true God-realized saints. So I never recommend people to just go and read Gita. It's not going to help you understand the philosophy just by reading it. You have to have it presented to you in a way that puts it in the proper context and tells you the practical applications of that in your life, which is what Prem Ras Siddhant does. It's available, by the way, just 2 doors down here in our bookstore. So that's my best recommendation I can give to you, since this series is ending tomorrow. If you want to learn more about the Gita in a real way, then study Prem Ras Siddhant. So Shri Krishna says, you can't know God without the help of a God-realized saint, and you can't know the Gita without the help of a God-realized saint. How you find such a saint, how you associate with that saint, these are matters that have to be understood, and we can take those up some other time, or we can talk about it afterwards if you have questions about that. Shri Krishna only says this much in this chapter, that we do have to surrender to a God-realized saint. We need the help of a God-realized saint to understand spiritual teachings. And through that association, the divine association, we are able to progress on the path. This is where I will end the philosophy of the 4th chapter. In the 5th chapter, we find mostly a review of what Sri Krishna has already taught so far. Arjun begins by asking a question, which is also pretty much review. He says, what is better, karma yoga or karma sanyas? Shri Krishna says, Sanyasah karma yogascha nishreyas karavubhau tayostu karma sanyasat karma yogo vishishyate. In the first line, he says, although both karma yoga and karma sannyas give the exact same result to the practitioner. What do you get when you practice karma yoga is the exact same as what you will get if you practice karma sannyas. Yet, the second line says, I consider karma yoga to be greater. This is Sri Krishna's opinion. This is what he's telling Arjun. To understand this, let's understand in summary that Gita explains about 4 kinds of karma. Karma, Vikarma, Karma Yoga, Karma Sannyas. And they're grouped in 2s. So Karma and Vikarma go together, and Karma Yoga and Karma Sannyas go together. Karma and Vikarma we learned about in the 2nd chapter, when Sri Krishna explained that if you do good karma, which is according to the Dharma explained in the Vedas, then you're rewarded, and if you do bad karma, you're punished. This is karma and vikarma. Karma means doing good actions, following your duties, performing all of your responsibilities. And vikarma means the opposite of that. Harming others, harming yourself, ignoring your duties, ignoring your responsibilities, being bad to others. That's vikarma. What is karma yoga? We learned that karma yoga means doing the good actions, but with the mind attached in God. And karma sannyas means being away from all worldly involvements, but having the mind attached to God. Understand the difference first between a karmi and a karma yogi. This is review, but it's important to understand. A karmi is someone who is performing good actions in the world with his mind attached in the world. A karma yogi is someone performing good actions in the world with his mind attached to God. Put another way, it means the karmi has hope of finding happiness from this world. That's why his mind is attached in the world. And the karma yogi wants to attain God. He has hope of finding happiness from God. That's why his mind is attached to God. But both are physically performing the same actions, looking after their family, doing a good job at work, being a good person in the society. Both the karmi and the karma yogi are physically doing the same thing. But mentally they're in totally different places. The karmi is an ajnani because he believes himself to be the body. Thus he believes his happiness can only come from this world. Thus he's attached in the world. But he's doing good actions. He's doing that much, but he's still an ajnani because he doesn't believe himself to be the soul. The karma yogi believes himself to be the soul, thus he knows he's related to God and that his happiness will only come from God. So his mind is in God, but he knows he has to live in the world, so he also does the same good actions that the karmi is doing. No difference. But their minds are in totally different places, thus they're going to attain totally different things. The karmi, due to his worldly attachment, will be reborn in the world, and the karma yogi, because he's attached to God, he attains God. Very different outcomes. The karma yogi is released from Mayic bondage forever. All of his past karma are wiped out. He's released from the bondage of karma forever. He's released from the bondage of birth and death forever. He receives divine bliss, divine knowledge, entrance to the divine abode. The karma yogi gets all of that, and the karmi gets another birth. Same as we've always had, under the bondage of Maya, bound by uncountable past karma, bound by birth and death. Very different outcomes, even though the physical actions are exactly the same. So it's where our mental attachment is that counts. The vikarmi, he's doing bad actions and his mind is attached in the world. He just thinks that I'll get my happiness by breaking rules, by causing harm to others, by just doing whatever I want. But he also believes he'll get happiness from this world. So he's also ajnani. He believes himself to be the body. Both the karmi and the vikarmi remain under the bondage of Maya. So in that way, they're both the same. Although it's better to be a karmi than a vikarmi. The vikarmi is going in the wrong direction. He's polluting his mind more and more. Now what about the karma sannyasi? The sannyasi is away from all worldly involvement. No family, no work, no involvement in the society. Just doing enough to keep his body alive. That's it. Eating, sleeping, drinking. That's it. Where is the mind of the karma sannyasi? In God. The karma sannyasi is a jnani. He knows I am not the body. I am the soul. God is my goal. That means the karma sannyasi and karma yogi are equal. From inside, they're both exactly the same. They both have the same goal, and they both attain God. That's why Shri Krishna said, Nishreyasa karav ubhav. Ubhav, dono, both. Both give you nishreyas. Both give you God realization. Both karma yoga and karma sannyas. Then why is karma yoga considered to be greater than karma sannyas? Because of the external perception. The vikarmi and the karma sannyasi externally may be very similar. Both are ignoring involvement in the society. But the karma sannyasi is doing it so that he can have his mind attached to God more. The vikarmi is doing it just because he wants to enjoy the world more. So it's totally different. The vikarmi is going to go to narak. The karma sannyasi is going to go to the divine abode. The outcome is totally different, but the physical perception, how another person sees you, will be very similar. The karma sannyasi, what do people see? Oh, he's left everything. So someone may see that, I also don't like to do my duty. I also don't like to be involved in society or do any work. I'm also taking sannyas. That becomes a sin. That becomes pap. Because that person's mind is not attached to God. He's not doing that as a means of reaching God. He's doing it out of laziness or out of selfishness. So if someone simply physically imitates the karma sannyasi, he becomes a bad person. If someone physically imitates the karma yogi, even not knowing that the karma yogi has his mind attached to God, what is he going to imitate? His physical actions. And the physical actions of the karma yogi are good. He's doing his duty, he's performing good actions in society. So people who physically observe the actions of a karma yogi are also going to become good if they imitate those actions. But the people who physically observe the actions of a karma sannyasi, if they just imitate the physical actions, they will become bad. This is why Shri Krishna says karma yoga is better than karma sannyas, even though both give the exact same outcome. Jagadguru Shri Kripaluji Maharaj recommended that people should be both karma yogi and karma sannyasi. Most of the day is spent in karma yoga and part of the day is spent in karma sanyas. Right now, you are all karma sannyasis. Unless there's someone here, checking his stocks on his smartphone or texting or something, which I don't see anyone doing that. But if you were, then you wouldn't be a karma sannyasi. A karma sannyasi's mind is in God. So right now, all of your minds are in God, and you're not involved in any worldly activity, are you? Someone sitting here may be a mother, someone sitting here may be a father, but you're thinking of God. You're not being a mother right now, right? Your child may also be sitting here, your child may be doing some other activity, but your mind is in God. So right now you're a karma sannyasi. Parents are looking around, where are my kids? You're a karma sannyasi. When you come to the mandir, you forget about the world, you only think of God, you're doing karma sannyas. So Shri Kripaluji Maharaj said we should do karma sannyas every day. It doesn't have to be in the mandir, it can be in your own house. But you take some time where you cease all worldly activities other than breathing, and you sit and remember God. However you do it, maybe you sit and meditate on Shri Krishna and chant some kirtan, which is the recommended way to do it in Kali Yuga. It's the easiest and best way for the people of Kali Yuga to attach their mind to God, is by doing kirtan. But you may have another way that works for you. The point is, your mind has to be in God, and while your mind is in God, cease all worldly activities and try to wholeheartedly remember Shri Krishna. This is karma sannyas. This should be practiced for some time every day. And then the rest of your day, you make the effort to be a karma yogi. You keep your mind in God, but you're involved in your worldly activities. Whether it's in the office or at your business or at home, wherever you may be, at school, you keep your mind in God, knowing that you're related to Him and He's your goal, but you're doing your physical duties. Both complement each other. If you just try to do karma yoga and never practice karma sannyas, it's easy for that connection you feel to God to become weaker. What do you do when you cease all worldly activities and only think of God as you're strengthening that connection with Him? In an intense way, you're remembering Him for that time. That develops your attachment to Him more quickly and improves your ability to remember Him throughout the rest of the day. So by doing karma sannyas, you're improving your ability to practice karma yoga. And by practicing karma yoga, you extend the benefit of what you got during your karma sannyas time. You take it. You don't want the feeling when you sit and do karma sannyas and you're remembering God, you get that peace. You get some bhakti ras. So you don't want to just cut that off and go back in the world and then forget about God until the next day when you do karma sannyas. You want to let that carry out over the rest of the day. Extend that feeling. So by doing karma yoga, somewhat you're able to extend that feeling throughout the rest of the day. This also improves. The more you practice both karma sannyas and karma yoga, you're able to maintain that feeling at a higher level throughout the whole day. Thus, you understand, in summary, what is karma yoga, what is karma sannyas, what is karma, what is vikarma. We should all try to practice karma yoga and karma sannyas every day. One last question was left out from yesterday, which is that in the Gita, Shri Krishna keeps talking about attaching our mind to Him. But the scientific problem here is that He is beyond Maya and our mind is under Maya. How can a Mayic mind think of anything divine? It can't. When you get a divine mind, dadami buddhi yogam tam yena mamupayanti te. Krishna says, when I give you a divine mind, then you can know me. When I give you divine eyes, then you can see me for real. We have a material mind. How can we know divine God? We can't. We can't even think of Him. Whatever we can think of would only be material. Whatever meditation we would do would only be material. But He keeps telling us to attach our mind to Him. This is possible only through His grace. The link doesn't actually come from our side. We have to make some effort, but the link comes from His side. Here's how it works. He is omnipresent. You learned that yesterday when I explained that even in His personal form, He's everywhere. Even when He's taking avatar on this earth, He's still everywhere. He's in His divine abode. He's omnipresent. And He is everywhere in His personal form, not only as a formless divine power, but actually in His personal form as Sakar Brahm. He is everywhere. It means He's always with us. He's always within us. He's even within our own mind. All we need is to try to connect with Him. The connecting force is our faith that He is here with me, which is a fact, is it not? Yes, it is a fact. He is here. So you just need to think, yes, He's here. I believe it. He's here right now with me. That act of thinking that creates a connection between you and Him. Yet it's a connection you would think, again, it shouldn't be possible, right? Because you can't bridge from your material mind. How can you have a bridge to the divine? It's possible because He makes it possible. He says, oh, this soul is trying to think of me, and He graces that soul. If He's omnipresent, His kripa is also omnipresent. But in order to experience that kripa, that grace, we need to have faith. Meditating on God is an act of faith. When you close your eyes and think, Shri Krishna is right here in front of me, and you start imagining what His eyes look like, what His face looks like, how His peacock feather is attached to His crown, what His hair, how He has black locks of hair falling on His face. When you're thinking of that, that is an act of faith. And He rewards you for that. He knows no soul can correctly imagine me. No soul can see me until they become God-realized. But how will they become God-realized? They have to think of me. They have to attach their mind to me. So He gives us the result of our effort. He says, oh, this soul is trying to think of me, and He graces us. And that grace flows into our heart, into our antahakaran, and purifies it, and gives us a feeling of peace as well, and joy, in that we actually feel His closeness with us. This is the process of doing devotion to God. It's an internal process. It may be aided by physical things like kirtan and puja, etc. But the actual process of bhakti happens in here when we do that act of faith, of trying to think of God with the belief that He is here with us. So that's how we bridge that gap. Our faith and His grace. Our faith becomes the means of receiving His grace, but His grace is always, you can say He's waiting to grace us. But the grace can only be received into an open heart. If it's pouring rain outside and you want to collect rainwater and you go out with a bucket, but you turn the bucket upside down on the ground, then don't blame the clouds that you didn't receive any rainwater. The bucket's upside down. When we don't have faith in Shri Krishna, our bucket is upside down. Our heart is closed to Him. He's showering grace on us. He's omnipresent. He's waiting for us with open arms. We have to open our heart to Him. And that is also a process. So whatever amount of faith we have, we just try to meditate using that much faith, that He is with me, He's looking at me right now. And that process it's like the snowball effect. The more you do it, The more you experience, the more faith develops. The more faith develops, the more grace you receive, so your experience keeps growing, and it goes like this right up until total heart purification, which is the moment of God realization. So this is how it's possible to attach your mind to God through His grace and your effort. Tomorrow, in the last day of this part of the series, we're going to learn about the 6th chapter of the Gita, where Sri Krishna tells us more about meditation and how to meditate on Him, how to control our mind when we're trying to meditate, as well as what happens to us if we die before we attain our goal in this life. Boliye Vrindavan Bihari Lal Ki. We'll finish with a few minutes of Kirtan. During this time, please try to practice just what I was explaining. Try to close your eyes, visualize Shri Krishna, and faithfully remember Him, that He is here with you. This will develop your attachment to Him. Radhe Radhe Govinda, Radhe Radhe Govinda,
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 Radhe Radhe Govinda,
Radhe Radhe Govinda,
Radhe Radhe Govinda,
Radhe Radhe Govinda,
Radhe Radhe Govinda, Radhe Radhe Govinda,
Radhe Radhe Govinda, Radhe Radhe Govinda,
Radhe Radhe Govinda, Radhe Radhe Govinda,
Radhe Radhe Govinda, Radhe Radhe Govinda,
Radhe Radhe Govinda, Radhe Radhe Govinda,
Radhe Radhe Govinda, Radhe Radhe Govinda,
Radhe Radhe Govinda, Radhe Radhe Govinda,
Radhe Radhe Govinda, Radhe Radhe Govinda,
Radhe Radhe Govinda, Radhe Radhe Govinda.
Radhe Radhe Govinda.
Radhe Radhe Govinda. Radhe Radhe Govinda.
Radhe Radhe Govinda. Radhe Radhe Govinda.
Radhe Radhe Govinda. Radhe Radhe Govinda.
Radhe Radhe Govinda. Radhe Radhe Govinda.
Radhe Radhe Govinda. Radhe Radhe Govinda.
Radhe Radhe Govinda. Radhe Radhe Govinda.
Radhe Radhe Govinda. Radhe Radhe Govinda.
Radhe Radhe Govinda. Radhe Radhe Govinda.
Radhe Radhe Govinda.
Bhajo Radhe Radhe Govinda.
Radhe Radhe Govinda.
Bhajo Radhe Radhe Govinda.
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 Radhe Radhe Govinda. Radhe 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 Radhe Govinda.
Bhajo Radhe Radhe Govinda.
Bhajo Radhe Radhe Govinda.
Bhajo Radhe Radhe Govinda.
Bhajo Radhe Radhe Govinda.
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 Radhe Radhe Govinda. Radhe 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 Radhe Govinda.
Radhe Radhe Govinda, Radhe Radhe Govinda,
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 Radhe Radhe Govinda,
Radhe Radhe Govinda,
Radhe Radhe Govinda,
Radhe Radhe Govinda,
Radhe Govinda,
Radhe Govinda,
Radhe Govinda,
Radhe Govinda,
Radhe Radhe Govinda, Radhe 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 Radhe Govinda.
अलबेली सरकार की
जय।
श्रीमद सद्गुरु सरकार की
जय।
जय जय श्री राधे, जय जय श्री राधे, जय जय श्री राधे. Tomorrow's program will be from 11 till 12:30, followed by Prashad lunch. So please come and join us for that tomorrow morning, again from 11 till 12:30. I also want to mention that all of these speeches are available on YouTube. I've given this series previously in other cities. So in fact, all 18 chapters are available if you want to watch them. Tomorrow I'll be concluding with the 6th chapter, and I'll continue further ahead next time I come, which we don't know when that will be right yet. But if you just go on YouTube, you can either go on the main YouTube page and just put in my name, Swami Nikhilanand, and Gita, and all of them should come up. Or if you want to see the whole playlist, you go to Radha Madhav Dham's YouTube channel. It's youtube.com/Radha Madhav Dham, and click on playlists, and you'll see all the different playlists. Some of Kripaluji Maharaj's speeches are there. There's Kirtan there. So you'll see a playlist of Essence of Gita by Swami Nikhilanand. So you can watch all 18 speeches.